As those of you who follow us regularly or hopefully are members of the J.C. Ralston Arboretum, you might know that we just had our online plant sale finish up. Actually, people were picking up plants today, but we also have an on-site plant sale and garden festival, and that's April 29th and 30th. April 29th is strictly plant sale, and it's strictly members only. Only members. You can join before then. You can show up at the gate and join that day as a member, but you only get to shop plants and buy plants if you're a member. On the 30th is our big Ralston Blooms Festival. We have a birdhouse competition that Chris oversees and is actively involved with. We have great speakers. Some of you may go to classes, take Bryce's classes. He'll be there speaking. We've got Denacia Seth Carley, who's a pollinator expert. We'll have a Ask the Experts Hort Hour there as well, so you can bring all your questions. And all those talks will be live on site, not hybrid.
Yep. And not recorded.
Not recorded, not hybrid, not anything, just live. Wow. Do we still do that?
It's the first in a long time.
Other plant vendors, art vendors, but we have a huge plant sale. And if you looked at our online list and bought stuff or didn't see anything you liked, we'll have some of the same plants, but this is really a whole different group of plants. So I've got a few plants here to talk about. I'm going to go through them quickly. Everybody loves succulents, and we have all kinds of these adorable little hardy succulents. This one is I talked about being in Asia. This is Sedum indica variety Uninci. Nice hardy little thing. I use succulents like this in containers. Make sure there's really good drainage. Make sure if you use succulents in a container outside that if it's sitting flat on the ground, pick it up regularly to make sure that the drain holes are not clogged, because sometimes the muck will kind of clog it up and they'll stop draining. But I do these in containers so I don't have to water them. Mix and match. Here we have two other creeping sedums. This is Harvest Moon. This is Tokyo Sun. And these are great for, weaving around rocks. They need well-drained soil, but ooh, they're cute, aren't they? Or just by themselves, a little container with just this in there. You do those, people like to plant things in these little beautiful containers. And if you plant something that's not, like a succulent, you got to water them all the time. But this you can put in a little thing and let it crowd itself and crowd itself and crowd itself. It's awesome. Somebody actually gave me a little succulent in a little pot that looks like somebody's head when they were staying with me. And it's indoor plant, though. I have not watered it once, and it's been months. It's been fine. So lots of little, and that's just a fraction of them. I'm showing the little plants first because that's what I like. So people look at this and say, well, I know that. That's a pansy. That's a viola. That's, let me tell you, I wouldn't plant a pansy if you paid me to. I have been a gardener for too long, and I have had, 300-foot long perennial borders or annual borders planted in pansies all winter that I had to deadhead in cold, wet, and ugh. This is the Corsican violet, Viola Corsica. And this is a phenomenal little perennial violet. Makes just a nice clump, 6 or 8 inches tall and wide. Really sweet little thing. It's supposed to have a nice fragrance. I don't smell much, but I don't smell much anytime. It'll flower over a long period. They look kind of scraggly in a pot, but once you get them in the ground, in some shade, they'll be just this sweet little perennial for you. If you grow our bird's foot violets or some of these other really choice things that don't spread like the Labrador violet or Viola odorata or some of those, they're great shade perennials. A little one for a little more sun, but maybe some afternoon shade is this little Calamintha, so it's in the mint family, but it doesn't go crazy. Calamintha Grandiflora Variegata, and you can see it's very variegated. This is one that has little kind of pinky purple flowers that are really cute against this foliage. It's just a nice little plant. What do they call the common name? Showy calamint. There you go. And it's a really cold hardy plant. Likes kind of a lean soil, but other than that, I find it super easy to grow. I've had it growing in my garden for ages and ages. All right, not much to look at here, but other people are picking plants in the plant sale, and I always talk about, oh, this is my favorite, because I get to pick them. But our curator Dennis Carey was picking some of the plants this year, and now this is even better because I go through and I look, and I hadn't paid attention necessarily to everything, and I'm like, ooh, I got to get this for my garden. So if you know tansy, this is a tansy, Sedum. This is one called Robinson's Crimson, sometimes called Painted Daisy. Nice hardy plant, needs sun. He's got a little picture tag. I don't know if you can get in there, but it's got a really vivid red flower. Tansies can spread a bit and make patches. I don't think they're overly vigorous in my mind. I've got it. My experience with tansy is deer don't eat it. I don't know if is it aromatic?
I don't know.
Not really, but I know deer eat yours. You don't have to tell me, but my experience, deer tend to leave this alone, but it'll make these nice mats and then kind of almost pretty evergreen mats over the winter, fairly evergreen, and then they'll shoot up with these kind of ferny leaves, and then these bright red flowers on this Robinson's Crimson. Sun, yes, this one wants full sun. Very cold hardy though. You got to show up to get any of these plants. These are not for sale online. All right. Perhaps the most criminally underutilized plant around is Phlomis fruticosa. This is another plant in the mint family, but it does not spread at all. This has a woody base. It's sometimes what they call a subshrub. Has these kind of silvery blue-green foliage that are fuzzy like lamb's ears, but it's evergreen, and it flowers. And I thought I had grabbed one with a flower stalks on there. Flowers with brilliant gold flowers in whorls around the stem, and it can have multiple whorls on the same stem. Grows to about 3 feet or so tall and wide. I grow about 4 or 5 species of these shrubby Phlomis at home. We grow them here. They're just awesome plants. Evergreen with leaves like a lamb's ear. And you almost never see them. They want sun, they want well-drained soil. And in fact, they'll flower for you better in a leaner soil. I've got mine mostly in too rich of soil, and I've got one that's going to flower for the first time this year, despite being flowering size for many years, but they're just too happy in the garden. This is another really cool little plant, sometimes called sea campion. It's Cylini Uniflora Druids Variegated. This is another one that likes a relatively well-drained soil, very cold hardy, kind of creeps around, has white flowers. The flowers don't show up to me that great against the foliage, but you got this foliage all season long, which is really beautiful. It just makes this mat of almost fleshy leaves that is just spectacular. Beautiful around rocks and things like that, where it can kind of creep around them like a little waterfall, a little tiny waterfall. Doesn't spread far, but creeps to little mats. All right, keep going with the Herbaceous Perennials. Let's see what we have. we have got a bunch of irises, and Chris said you were going to break in here to mention Iris.
I am. The local Iris Society's spring flower show is this coming Sunday at noon here at the J.C. Ralston Arboretum, and I believe it concludes at 4 p.m. So Sunday, starting at noon, come to the Arboretum to see an awesome flower show with the local Iris Society. Should be a great one. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. So we have a variety of irises that are going to be for sale at our sale. This is one called Jumpstart, which is kind of this wine red black with orange beard on there. That I think is really beautiful plant. This is a German bearded iris, but we have other types of iris that will be in the sale. Japanese iris, some variegated iris, some different things, but it's hard to beat that for showy in the garden. And easy to grow. Just don't plant them too deep. That's a problem sometimes people have. Divide them every so often. Despite what most of the iris people will say, what they'll probably tell you at the Iris Society meeting, what I do is if I want to divide them immediately after it flowers, I dig it up and divide them, and that way it'll flower again next year. Whereas if you divide in the fall, you'll lose the flowers for the coming year. Chris is coming to steal the plants. Here's a spurge, a euphorbia. This is Miner's Merlot. I always forget these. We've got some variegated ones, but this Miner's Merlot, I think is really pretty guy. There's burgundy stems, burgundy leaves, just coming into flower. These are technically specialized structure for euphorbias called cyathea, and the flowers are down here inside, but you don't care about that. The flowers, as they open up in age, will turn really this kind of acid green that above the purple foliage is crazy good. They need well-drained soil. They need full sun. If you don't have those things, they will not last long in the garden. Easy to propagate. If they're in too rich of soil, they will get big and floppy and not be great. So you want to grow these pretty lean. I've seen people grow them in hell strips where there's drainage, but the soil's not very good. If you have any kind of, like a rock garden or something, or if you have sandy soils, these are amazing for that. They don't do great in my garden because my gardens, I actually put compost in for the first time ever with a new garden. All right, son. So this is a little Aster relative, Calamitha yomina shogun. And this is not a brand new plant or anything like that. It's been around for decades. Still a great plant. Sometimes these plants just fall out of fashion. This will spread and form low mats, pretty much evergreen for us. And then it will flower with, this is just getting started with purple aster flowers that'll sit up above the foliage. Really easy. I've grown it in full sun, great. I've grown it in part shade, great. Every once in a while, you'll get reversions to full green. You see how variegated this is. If you get a spot that reverts to full green, get it out of the plant because it'll take over the whole thing. Now you can plant it somewhere else, but it will spread pretty rapidly into a nice mat. I think this is a great plant, and it just kind of fell off of everybody's radar, and I'm not sure why, because I still think it's a lovely little thing. And a mat of this, even without these little lavender flowers on top, is really spectacular, I think. Oh, a cute little bulb for the rock garden, or little pot, or something somewhere like that. This is called Lediboria, or sometimes striped squill, and this is about as big as it gets. It's not gonna overtake your garden, but it will form these little tight clumps You can see how it kind of will spread a little bit, but not run. It'll just get a bigger and bigger clump. They come up. They have these little these small leaves that are really striped purple, which is cool. How many plants do that? And then these little pink flowers that kind of nestle in there with the foliage. It's just a cute little plant. If you have a small garden, if you do troughs, anything like that, it's a great plant. If you have a big, huge garden, one of these might get lost, but you can plant 10 of them. Just get to the plant sale early, because I don't think we have too many more than 10 of these. But neat little thing. I've been told it'll grow in sun, but I've always grown this. Grow in some shade, but I've always grown this in full sun. I've never grown it in shade at all. Have you?
I've never grown it, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Yeah, it's a great little plant. It's adorable. All right.
Very cute.
Man, I hate digging big holes, so I'll do one last small one, and then I'll get to the bigger things. Okay. This is kind of this doesn't look great in a pot. But this is Tweedia Cerulea. Chris, do you know what the Tweedia is? Either the Oxypetalum Cerulea. I don't know which one is the name now. It went from one to the other and maybe back again a couple of times. I don't know. Taxonomist. But this is a little milkweed, butterfly weed relative. It's in that same family, Asclepidaceae. Makes kind of a little shrub. It is short-lived. It can be, often only lives for a few years. You grow it in sun, relatively well-drained soil. Didn't mean to pick everything for sun. Just, I think I was on the sun pad, and so that's why I picked everything for sun. But it has these incredible soft sky blue flowers on it. Just the prettiest thing. And the seed pods in the Asclepidaceae, they open up, and you may remember that with little fluffy things in there. If you know, like the Fantasia. Do people still watch Fantasia? They made little ballerina kind of things floating around, but kind of the really kind of neat little flowers. You can take those and kind of scatter them around where you want it to grow the next year, and it'll often just pop up there, or let it do its own thing. Won't go far, won't be a problem. It's I don't know if it's native to North Carolina or not.
I'll look that one up. But it looks like Oxypetalum might be the...
I think we have it as Oxypetalum.
South America.
Oh, okay, it is South America.
Southern Brazil to Uruguay.
There you go. So not from here. But it doesn't spread. It's been growing for years and years and years, and I've never heard of this or seen it or read of it anywhere escaping around here. But you can see down here we got new growth coming up. So if I were to take this home, buy this and take this home, I would probably cut it back right here and let these new pieces come up. Now, if I was feeling energetic and had the time, I would also take these and stick these in some just damp soil and root some more. Always good to have more plants. All right, still small things. I love the small stuff, but we have quite a few different phlox. We have some of the creeping phloxes, the moss phloxes, but also the tall garden phlox. And this is one that I really like. This is one called Starfire. And I like it because the new growth emerges with this black coloration on there and dark leaves. Now, it doesn't keep it for terribly long, but it does give, kind of a spring bit of interest. And then as you get into summer, this has really vivid pink-red flowers. It is fairly mildew resistant, not as mildew resistant as some of the newer cultivars. But this plant, for me, it doesn't get mildew until a little bit later in the season after it's been flowering for a while. And so what I do, if it gets powdery mildew, at that point I just cut it back, and then I get a whole new flush of growth with that dark coloration. Sometimes it flowers again, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the fall. But I like doing that. I'd never spray a phlox for powdery mildew. If it was that bad, I'd get rid of it. But just cutting some of these things back, it'll do wonders for them. But I really like that. Okay, Moonlit Lace, Viburnum. What was it? Mike Durr, I think, in his book said, garden without viburnums is like a something without song, a life without music, or something like that. So Moonlit Lace is a hybrid one, and it's got Viburnum farreri in it, which gives it this really nice puckered, or Davidii. It's got one of the two, but this kind of really nice puckered surface, especially on the younger leaves. It's and that's a plant that just does not grow for us. But this hybrid is fantastic. These had been in a greenhouse. They are just starting to flower a little bit early. Small flowers, but they're in these really nice clusters. But I would grow this if it never flowered for this new growth and this really nice evergreen foliage. Let me see what they say as far as size. Yeah, grows 3 to 4 feet tall and 4 to 5 feet wide. It does not. It gets much bigger. Ours got 4 feet tall and 5 feet wide in about a year or two. They say it is deer tolerant on the tag, but they also say it only grows 3 to 4 feet tall and 4 to 5 feet wide. So take that with a grain of salt. It is a good plant, though. I would think more 6 to 8 feet tall, 10 feet wide, if you don't touch it. Now, you can prune it, and some plants like this, I have more and more, as I have more and more plants in my own garden, I prune these back, plants like this back. Like I'll let it flush out in the spring, flower, and then once it's all kind of gone green, I will cut it back a pretty good bit, and it'll flush out again with this great color. And a lot of plants, I'll do 2 or 3 cuts a year and get that color. I never used to do that, but I have started doing it now. Somewhere there is a plant that has bounced along on the ground somewhere because it is not here. So it's probably somewhere back in the nursery. It fell off my golf cart. What I was going to show was another viburnum, a native viburnum. Viburnum, the Moonlit Lace is one that's a hybrid of 2 non-natives, but we have some Viburnum prunifolium, the plum leaf viburnum, and it's a great drought-tolerant, easy viburnum it's never spectacular, but it's always good. It's one of those really good, reliable plants, which sounds like I'm damning it with faint praise, but really those are kind of the stalwarts of the garden, of those plants that just always look good, always perform, always do well. So this is Weigela. This is Sonic Bloom Pure Pink. And, Weigela has always been, it's an old-fashioned type plant, shrub, and when it flowers, it is one of the most amazing things in the garden. Quite honestly, I don't know why azaleas always got all the press for their spring bloom and Weigela was neglected, because they're easier to grow, and in terms of flower display, every bit as good. This hasn't fully opened all the flowers yet, but will. But this series, the Sonic Bloom series, is one that's a repeat flowering one. So this will continue to flower off and on for a really long period, rather than just flower once like the old-fashioned Weigela. I haven't grown this one exactly, so let me look at the size. 4 to 5 feet tall, 5 to 6 feet wide. Yeah, maybe. They test these things too far north. They need to bring it down here in the south, where we either kill things or they grow a lot quicker. It is certainly more compact than the older ones, but I've found the sonic blooms to be a little bit variable in terms of size. Some are smaller than others. So, and we haven't grown this long enough to be able to tell for sure. But yeah, it will rebloom. It does. The Weigela is more shade tolerant than often given credit. Now, you don't want it in deep shade, but it will still flower in, part shade as long as it's getting some sun, 3-4 hours of sun, even if it's just morning sun, it'll flower really well. And, it's one of those no-brainer plants. You put it in, and there's a reason this is an old-fashioned plant, and that's because it survived. It survived coming from Asia to Europe and, on ships, and then it survived in gardens and a lot of stuff that isn't still around and people aren't still planting. So sonic bloom.
While you're getting the next one, Mark, I was just noticing the label on it, and that's a Proven Winners Color Choice Flowering Shrub. And I just wanted to give a thanks to them for sponsoring our Southeastern Plant Symposium. They are a presenting sponsor. I'm
glad you said that. Yeah. Our Southeastern Plant Symposium, where we love plants of all stripes. And actually this our one in June 11th and 12th.
10th and 11th.
10th and 11th. Registration's live. Is really about herbaceous plants, but it's such an amazing program that Proven Winners Color Choice Flowering Shrubs is our presenting sponsor for it. So we really are, we're really appreciative of what of the support they're showing for that as well. Great plant. All right, got one more. I brought a maple in. It's actually in some forms of it almost evergreen. This is another one of our collections. This was not a wild collection. We collected it from a tree at a botanic garden in China that had been collected in the wild. Aster tonkinense. Have no idea if this is going to really prove to be solidly hardy here. It came through last winter just fine. But we'll see. That was a pretty mild winter. And I bring this up not to tell you that we're going to have 24 Aster tonkinense for you, but our new nursery technician is twisting my arm to get rid of some plants in the nursery. We have a lot in the nursery. And so we will have one section of the plant sale that'll be, the collector's corner, where you won't see what those plants are online because we don't have enough of them. In some cases it'll be one, in some cases it'll be 5 or 6. Some of them will be 3 or 5 gallon. Some of them will be 3-inch pots. But there'll be, for the most part, plants that are difficult to come by. Probably some will be ones that we have offered, previously in larger number, maybe through plant sales from our collections. But, that was kind of your only opportunity to get it. Some of them might be limited commercial availability, but it'll be neat stuff. I mentioned when I started talking about our plant sale that Ralston Blooms is the part of the sale open to everybody on Saturday, April 30th. I expect quite a number of these collector's corner plants to be gone by then, because Friday, April 29th, 4 to 7, our members only portion of the sale. I have a feeling that quite a few of the plants will be gone then. So I say that to encourage you to join and support us and come here on Friday. And Friday is a lot of fun. And after the first 45 minutes of frenzy, we really have a lot of time to chat and talk with all our members who come. And I know all the staff always like that, but especially this year after 2 years of not having in-person sales. So hope you'll join us for that. Any questions about the plant sale, Ralston Blooms? Also, I want to say, I mentioned the birdhouse competition that Chris does. If you make birdhouses, look on our website about how to enter a birdhouse.
Youths and adults.
Youths and adults. That can be like real working birdhouses, but also works of art, the flights of fancy, as we call them. And we always get a lot of fun ones in.
And they can enter more than one if they're quite crafty.
That's right. You had 2 years at home in the wood shop or craft room, so you should be able to
They
bring
shall
in
be
a lot.
entering 3 of them, shouldn't they, for the 2 missed years?
That's right.
Well, believe it or not, no additional questions. I think that Val's just been drooling like I've been over here. And yes, I did collect all the little potted plants that are over here on my desk.
Yes.
Some look really good together.
Yes, and there is a list online. Expect it to change a bit over time. Usually things added every once in a while, something comes off of the list if we look at it and decide that it isn't the quality we want to sell. But yeah, that list is already started online.
The list is started online. I'll be doing some final touches to it myself and just doing some reviews. So I think it'll be pretty close to being final by the weekend.
except for when I come through on Monday and Tuesday and start pulling a whole bunch of plants. Most of those will be for Collector's Corner, so they won't affect the list.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. It's been great. Hope to see you out at the Arboretum for Ralston Blooms or any other time. If you do come by and you see Chris or I or any of the staff out in the garden, stop and say hello. It's a lot of fun getting to see y'all face to face.